We asked for ivermectin multiple times with multiple doctors, and every time we asked for it, they gaslit me. They laughed at me.
We asked for ivermectin. We asked him more than once, please give Bernie ivermectin. We want that. No, we can't. It's against protocol. I think that one doctor even said it was against the law. I'm not sure, but it seems like that's what he told me. And we asked for it, and they would not give it to him.
I said, why aren't you calling other hospitals around the country? I said, what are you doing? Why aren't you, there's ivermectin, HCQ, Regeneron, there's all these other things. What are you doing? We already know the remdesivir shuts the organs down.
I was denied my essential oils, my herbal teas, my vitamins. They told me that it wasn't the hospital protocol to allow that.
I know the hospital was not open to any kind of other treatments other than what they deemed was approved, and that was the death call, a death sentence protocol that they had in place.
We asked for alternative medications. We asked for a Z-Pak, hydrochloroquine, and ivermectin. They told us, no, that's against hospital protocol. No.
I asked again on the 16th for him to be put on ivermectin. Was told that it was not approved by the FDA.
And at first they told me no. And I said, okay, well, why not? And they said, well, because your mom, she's in this trial, and, with ivermectin, there's no history, that it's proven to help anyone. There's nothing concrete in terms of their studies. And so I was very frustrated at that point. And I said, okay, well, you're giving her this remdesivir. You're telling me she's in a trial, like she is a guinea pig. So why won't you give her what we in her family are wanting her to receive in order to help her improve her health in fighting this COVID situation?
I personally asked for ivermectin and the vitamins, and he told me himself that he couldn't do it. The hospital would not allow it. And I said, well, the hospital will allow a doctor to do it if the doctor will sign off on it. And he said, well, I'm not going to go against the hospital. And he would not do it.
My mother's demanded ivermectin. You have got to give her what she's asking for. And of course, that's when we got just a bunch of excuses. They don't know nothing about it and blah, 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 blah.
So my family says yes. So this doctor prescribes the ivermectin and hydrochloroquine. We already had it at home or whatever. So my family sneaks in on day 8 hydrochloroquine and ivermectin to me, and I start taking it. When he saw that I had been prescribed the ivermectin and the hydrochloroquine, he scoffed at me, and he said a lot of good that did, and he also was very much we were butting heads. He just was because I was not vaccinated, he treated me like dirt.
Right. I will also say, as far as ivermectin, hydroxychloroquine, I knew about them. I did not know that the hospital wouldn't give those to him. That's what shocked me completely, was even though I knew about them, I asked every doctor I spoke to when he was in there, every single one of them said no. Every one of them said they had these talking points and they went through their talking points. It was, well, they haven't been found to work, or it's not the protocol. So we have to follow the protocol. Or one of them was even honest and said, well, even if I wanted to prescribe those things for him, I'm not allowed to.
We asked for ivermectin. My mom asked for the hydrochloroquine, whatever. She asked for both of those in the first hospital, and they both said, no, it's not protocol. It's only remdesivir.
Insisting that I wanted them to give her hydroxychloroquine and ivermectin. And right away, the nurse got real rude, and she says, wait, that's not our protocol here. We don't follow that.
I asked, hey, can I get ivermectin? Can I get hydroxychloroquine? They said, no, those don't work.
And she did bring up ivermectin and hydroxychloroquine, and they said that was not going to happen. We requested ivermectin, and they said, don't even bring that up. That is not happening here. So it's the same, same crap over and over.
Family's upset because we will not give ivermectin. They put it in there.
This is where I believe that they euthanized my mom, because when she was intubated, Well, yes, she wasn't able to get ivermectin. They would not give her ivermectin before she was even intubated. She was too sick. It was too late. That doesn't help. Like, we don't administer that here, kind of thing.
Because I asked for HCQ and ivermectin, of course, that they wouldn't do that.
I asked, what are you giving him for COVID? And he said steroids and antibiotics. And I said, well, that doesn't seem to be enough. Why aren't you giving him ivermectin or hydroxychloroquine? And he said, those don't work. And I said, yes, they do. I have friends, that went to the hospital, took the drugs, and are fine now. He said, no, they don't work. Get the vaccine. Those were his exact words to me. We argued about that a little bit. And that doctor I never talked to again. I had only two other doctors in the course of 2 weeks that called me. All were foreign. The second doctor, when I asked about the drugs, said, we don't have any of those drugs. We've never had them. The third doctor, when I asked, why aren't you giving him those two drugs? She said, we're out.
They started pulling ivermectin off the shelves. They started pulling antibiotics off the shelves. They started pulling all sorts of things off the shelf, so making it very difficult for anybody to get it. So you cannot tell me that this is not on purpose.
And I told him, you could have saved him if you had used the ivermectin that I asked you to use. And he had the nerve to stand there in front of my entire family and say, and I could quote this, I wouldn't even know how to administer that stuff.
This was their protocol. Because like I said, I'd asked for ivermectin and they said no, it wasn't part of their protocol.
And I still want him to have the ivermectin, and I want to come see him, and all of that was not allowed.
The hospital was resistant to give my mother ivermectin, which has a better safety profile than Tylenol.
Yeah.
Yet the day she went in, they did not hesitate to give her Tylenol. So show me the logic so I can go along with your treatment plan. But if you can't show me the logic, be open to alternatives.
We were asking for that. We did know of the hydrochloroquine back there. We did hear of that. And they wouldn't do, of course, they wouldn't do that, or the ivermectin. They wouldn't.
My husband had told me he asked for ivermectin. They told him that they do not have it in their hospital, and no hospital in the United States carries it. No hospital in Riverside County carries it.
I asked the doctor over the phone, can't you give her ivermectin? And we had a long discussion about it, and he said no, and our protocol is the remdesivir, that they found that worked the best. I asked him about hydroxychloroquine, and he said no.
When I first brought it up, this was like 2 days after when he was on the remdesivir, I asked about monocle therapy, and I asked about Regeneron, and he said, no, protocol, we don't use those. I said, what about ivermectin? Well, at first he kind of yelled at me, telling me that's a horse wormer, and you don't know what you're talking about. And I said, no, I do know what I'm talking about, and people take ivermectin all the time. I said, I want to know why my husband can't have the ivermectin.
She asked for ivermectin twice, and she was denied both times.
As far as I'm concerned, the hospital murdered my husband. They murdered him, and they knew just what they were doing. Protocols they were given and told that they had to follow. But what about conscience? How can you do this if you begin to realize that your patients aren't living, that they're dying one by one? Why is it when there were repurposed drugs they could have used,